Okay. Well, let me tell you. We've got some music. We've got some analysis, I suppose. That's what we've got. And then, what else have we got? Well, no, that's about it. Music and analysis, that's how we do it. And what are we going to be analysing? Luminescent Creatures by Ichiko Aoba. And I think this is going to be good. I've heard a tiny bit of some songs, Sonar down here being one of them. But I certainly have not heard a lot of this. However, I am aware of Ichiko Aoba's other work, like Windswept Adan. Not Asleep Among Endives. I don't know what that is. I don't know what an endive is or an endivis. But I know QP and O, and I think those are great. I think Windswept Adan is okay, and there's also, I think, an orchestral version. Yeah, and I really, for some reason, did not like this Live at Jazz State album. But whatever. There's a lot to be going on with there, but QP especially, I think, is really, really great. Here's hoping for more. It's basically what she's known for, at least, is sort of, I want to say, singer-songwriter, acoustic, guitar plus vocals music. There's some stuff that's a little more ambitious than that, but that's the basic thing. At the same time, it seems unfair to pigeonhole her into that specific thing, because the amount that she does with the guitar is beyond what a lot of people do. There's a lot of nice chords and such like, a lot of very nice chord progressions, and a lot of really lovely melodies as well. But overall, very soft stuff. Let's see if this keeps in the same vein. Alright, well, I'm going to have to go over that straight away. Very helpfully, in a Jacob Collier kind of style, we hear each voice come in on a different note at a different time. So we get that one, then we get that one, then we get that one, then that one, and then the last one is that one. 5 different notes, making quite a complex chord that I can't play on guitar. With that in there. How would you even describe that chord? Well, the lowest note is this, which is a C, and I would say it feels like a C chord because of that as well. Now, it doesn't have the G that we would expect from a C chord, but it does have the E flat, which gives us like a C minor-y feel. It does also have a D and an F, so kind of it's both of those superimposed on each other, D minor and C minor, and then G, which is in neither of those chords. So you could see this not as a D minor, but as a B flat. So then we've got that and that. Or you could see it as like a C minor 7 with an added 11 and an added 9. But really, yeah, it's like a B flat chord, B flat major on C. And if that was just a B flat major, it would still have an added 11th. The 11th is sort of the most disturbing of intervals, especially a normal 11th, because it feels almost always basically as dominant as the root note. Because if we think about like a normal major chord and we play it with the 5th at the bottom, like this kind of thing, do is our lowest note, but do we change one of those notes, so we're changing from having this one here to this one, but we keep the low, let's say 11th, it still doesn't feel like this. Now if we reverse those, if I can do that, there it's a little bit more ambiguous, so the 11th is a little higher. It's not as dominant because it's higher in the texture. And if we take it even further and we do something like that, then it's even less of a dominant kind of sound. It no longer feels like it's the root note of the chord. But when it's low in the texture, it really does. And here we've got these two dyads right next to each other, so I get this kind of quartal sounding thing. Wow, I wasn't expecting to talk so much on purely the first chord of the thing, but anyway, that's nice. Also, it's called coloratura. I wonder if we are going to get some coloratura range on this. Well, that's certainly not. Wow, slide down to a low D there. That's very low, and you can hear the husk in her voice there as well. Yeah, so we've got maybe also a C. Not a C, but a B flat. So that does sort of settle on this G minor chord there. That's an interesting one. We weren't expecting G minor so much after these notes. So we had this complex, colourful chord that then sort of drains, slowly morphing into that more monotone G minor chord. Monotone not being a bad thing there, just describing the difference between the two things. There's something else in there though, isn't there? Let's hear that again. Maybe that doesn't go all the way down to D at the bottom there, actually. Yeah, so when you hear it in isolation by that, it's clearly actually an E flat. Yeah, it takes a little bit of time to settle. Ooh, but then it does settle on the E flat, so that makes this chord a little more complicated. Does it? Actually, maybe not. Unless there's a D in there somewhere. There are 5 voices, so we should expect them to go to 5 different notes later on too, but maybe there's 2 down there in that lowest octave. I'm going to turn it up because it's so quiet. I think we've got so it's not giving us like a E flat major 7 chord like we might expect if we've got that D in there still. It's giving us instead like a E flat add 9 chord. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so 2 nice chords. Fully vocal chords, and then the E flat coming in there from the piano. And then we merge with the rest, loads more instruments coming in. And the voices actually disappear, don't they? It's a very nice texture, very interesting texture. We've got that going on in the piano, and then there's a rising figure like that. Like The Snow is Dancing by Debussy, if you guys know that. Let's just find that. Just for a brief. No! Oh no, we don't want that version, do we? Yes, sure, this'll do. So, it's the same kind of figure as that, and it's in the guitar here. They're taking it in turns, the piano and the guitar alternating, so we get this kind of thing. One's on the beat and the other's off the beat. The guitar is on the beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the other one and. Yeah, that's the idea. It's off the beat. So the piano's off the beat, the guitar is on the beat. Most other things aren't moving, but we've got a nice flute melody over the top, and also some chord coming from somewhere. I think it's like a synth in the background, but it might be orchestral instruments to some degree. That flute starts with an interesting jump of a fourth down, and it's not actually the highest thing in the texture at that point. It starts there, and then it comes below the piano. So we're all kind of operating in the same area here. This octave up here, a lot higher than we normally look at when I'm doing these analyses, so that's fun. There is some lower stuff which is more in the background, just adding some colour and some space. Yeah, we really changed tone there, but also changed mode. So this is sort of saying, well, maybe it's saying G Phrygian like that, but I don't really feel that. It's more like an E flat major kind of feel, which goes with the chord that we were just on. But then, where do we go after that? I think the E flat stays the same. Down in the bass. Maybe that's on guitar too. And then is it doing that? Let's hear it again. Yeah. Yes, okay. So this is the bass note to begin with in that first one. So it's not looking at a full E flat, but maybe I guess that's G. So if you want to think of it as Phrygian, there's enough reason to think that. But because the main three spell that chord, maybe we're really looking at a C minor is what we're looking at here. And that would be Aeolian mode or standard natural minor. But then we go to actually E flat minor. So from this kind of thing to this kind of thing. Now I think that's a very dark change. It's what I like to call a tertiary shift, because we're on this kind of C minor, and then we move up a minor third. So many things change. The G here goes to a G flat in this chord, so darkening that one. Now, that is the main change here. that chromatic change, but also moving the root note. Well, the root note is here in this one, so it's sort of weird second inversion thing, but it moves down to there. It also gives that sort of darkening of that move down and going from the C to the B flat as well. That's less strong, but you can even keep that C along in that chord and it makes a -6 fun kind of scary sound. Anyway, that's off in Cloud Cookie Land. What we're focusing on here is that we've got that particular tertiary shift, so darkening of the sound. Okay, we're going to have some complicated harmony here. You can hear the flute melody is sort of keeping out of the way a lot of the time. The main moving things are the piano and the guitar doing that alternating. Yeah, so that's what we've got here, which is interesting. We went from like a C minor-y thing to an E flat minor, and then this is kind of like E half diminished. Sorry, E flat half diminished. So even further darkening the sound, flattening these notes even further. Oh, it's not even a guitar, is it? It's clearly a harp. It's clearly a harp that's doing those notes. Okay, and then we've changed again. To a kind of D major 7 kind of feel. With, you can hear maybe in the strings, it's not quite so clear. It might be a little bit of woodwind too, but that backing orchestral sound is giving a lot of extra notes. It's not just confining itself to a D major chord. We've got a little bit of the E in there, definitely. Maybe some others as well. It's giving a thick sort of wall of currently consonant noise. Okay, now it feels like we've suddenly hit full song and we're back at E flat. Well, that was quite a crazy journey, wasn't it? We started with this kind of thing, and then that slid down into this kind of E flat chord. We then had more of a C minor kind of sound, E flat minor sound, an E flat half diminished sound, D major 7 sound, and then we came back to this other one. So almost every chord change there in the second half has some kind of chromatic shift to it. That one especially I really like because it has this enharmonic change. We go from this G flat in the E flat minor chord to an F sharp, which is the same note, but we just see it from the other side of the spectrum. We see this one as pretty low, pretty dark sounding, and then this suddenly the same note is brighter and clearer. Nice stuff, nice stuff. Anyway, yeah, it sounds like we're getting into more of a song now. It sounds like there's some percussion come in and some movement. Yeah. So yeah, lovely change of sort of timbres. Some of them staying the same, but the piano now is taking more of a central role, giving us more than just the one repeating note. We've got some bass in there as well, very soft sounding bass, but clear and present because nothing else is in its octave. It's just giving boom, and nice and sort of reserved as well. It's not just letting us have a big wall of bass noise. It's coming in and out, doing little lines. Very nice. We've also changed from what seemed like a very clear 1 and 2 and 3, whatever it was. 1, 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It seemed like that. Now we've gone to something which is more triplety. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a something like that. So we've sort of had a metrical shift as well. I'm sure you can count this if you want in threes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or you could go 1 and a 2 and a 3, 1 and a 2 and a 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 1. But I would suggest not. I think really it makes more sense to think of that as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And then when we come in this next section. Nice. We're also holding that chord for a good while, that E flat minor chord. That said, there's enough extra notes to it. We're getting a lot of that minor 9 in there. And it's also just shifting a little bit, something like that at the end of the bar. It's not a big shift, and it doesn't feel like a whole chord change. It just feels like some notes are going up and down, and I think we're getting that C in there, which would give us a kind of Dorian feel, a slightly brighter than minor sound. Yeah, full of hope and interest. Yeah, so I slightly misinterpreted the piano's role here. I heard the piano and the harp essentially melding into one. The harp is the thing that's keeping the rhythm, doing like a something like that, and the piano is just doing chords on each beat after each sort of 3 subdivisions. This kind of thing. More focused than that. But also each of those different piano chords that comes, like, let's say 4 in a bar, each one has a different arrangement of notes, so they always sound like they're evolving and moving somewhere else, whereas the harp is pretty set on what notes it's playing. Yeah, just really nice sparing use of orchestral percussion stuff here. We've got a little bit of that sing that you get on when rubbing something against a cymbal, not smashing it, just rubbing against it. And then there's also, some chimes, I reckon, just to sort of transition. Chimes are such a classic transition thing. They're a little bit cheap, I would say, but it does have a good effect. Here it comes. Yeah, and that transitions us again to a new chord with a new feel. Now, interesting. So we've gone from E flat minor here to F minor, which is quite a strange thing, and especially in a normal minor key, if you're really setting off that your E flat is your root chord, and going up to another minor chord does desettle that to some degree. But this actually is a perfectly acceptable, perfectly standard, albeit not that often used, chord progression in a Dorian mode. All the notes do fit in a key together. They fit in E flat Dorian. It's just quite an unusual thing to happen, and it does have this. Ooh, that's quite unusual. That feels very unusual kind of sound to it. And this takes that further. It takes it further into the unusual by this being more of a new Dorian place. We're getting that major sixth from this chord, which is a D. Now, previously when we were on this chord, we didn't get too much stuff that was telling us not D. We got E flat, and well, we did get this D flat here, telling us not D as the 7th of the chord. Okay, so then when we move here and we get that D, that's like, oh, okay, yes, we have changed mode. We could have kept the D flat and then we would be sort of in the same place. And moving between those two, while it's unusual, it doesn't feel too crazy. But instead, we've got a change of mode there. And I think we might also get the 9, yeah. So if we get the 9 in this chord, that's changing from that G flat in that chord to G in this one. So there is quite a powerful chromatic shift between these two as well, but it's on the sort of fringes of what's going on, so it doesn't feel really in your face. Yeah. Very soft whispers, taking a back seat to the other things that are more important, really. The constant flowing of that harp and piano. They're constantly going. Everything else is jumping in and coming out, and making their small contributions in specific moments. The flute is still here, giving us nice bits of melody, but again, yeah, not the focal point, really. Even when it's doing that, it's really about the harp and the piano, and yeah, just little bits of percussion, little bits of bass, and now little bits of whispering. That was a big change. So. That's an unexpected one, and I'm gonna have a bit of trouble, I think, with the tuning of the orchestra being a little different to my tuning. This is always the case. Yeah, so it's to a G minor 7, no, sorry, major 7. G major 7, so we were E flat minor, F minor, G minor 7, wow. Sorry, G major 7. That's so curious as a change. These two, it's unusual, but it's heard of, let's say. But then it's a big step. It's there. Now, the closest you would get is if you had like an F minor 7 to a G7, a dominant 7, sounding like that. That kind of thing would happen in like a standard minor key. Okay, but going to the major 7 is a really big leap. What is even going on there? The F to the G, well, the F to the G is sort of clouding the thing, actually, because this major 7 chord has an F sharp in it. So maybe some of the F goes to G, but the other one just steps up a semitone. So one's going up a tone and the other a semitone, which is, yeah, really like a big division between these two chords. The same note goes to two different things on the other side of it. What else have we got? We've got an A flat, which I guess can go down to the G. Okay, so yeah, maybe that makes the confusion of the F not quite so weird, but as the F is on the bottom and really that's going to the G, it still is pretty weird. Okay, we've got the C. Now the C is the easiest one, again, kind of like the A flat. It's just going down a semitone. That would be nice. It's really, yeah, that added F sharp that is drawing a strange thing. Even if we add the 7th on here, that's just dropping a semitone to the next chord. It's a big change, but it's common and it's usual. So it's just adding that 7th in there that is really odd. Yeah, it's almost like that A flat has to go through the G and out the other side to get to the F sharp. Very unusual kind of feel between those two chords. Let's hear it again. So here's... We've actually got a little more shifting between what's going on there as well, which I should probably go into. So let's just have a look at what's going on there. Yeah, so... I think it's this kind of thing. So we've got like an F minor 6 is actually what we've got there. Not that it changes too much, but we've got that 6th in there a lot. And then every 4 beats we're changing to something more like this, which is a, what's that? D flat 7 chord. So we've got the F6, and then we have this chromatic shift to that, while 2 notes keep the same. These 2 notes keep the same through both of those. These 2 middle ones, and so it's quite a subtle change, but chromatic and definitely produces a very different feel between the two chords. Just a sudden thing from that F6. Really big shift to a completely unrelated key. And then yeah, we came back again. And then we went back and then somewhere else. This is, yeah, going to be more than is worth looking at here. Just feel. Down to a kind of E9. So every single change here is huge. That actually feels more like a to that. Yeah, the very powerful changes, and we're also sort of ramping up what's going on. There's a little more string noise, there's a little more percussion. Okay, that moment there is a real softening when we get to that A major 7. Well, it's a new chord, but then it also just changes straight into somewhere slightly harder. Okay, and we step up the chromatic, well, the harmonic movement there. It's been 4 beats, but then it goes to just 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Just stepping up and down with major 7 chords. None of them work in the same key as each other, so don't worry about that. Each one brings with it its own sort of tonality and its own sort of sound space. The harmonic movement steps up, and so that's like a ramping up of excitement in a certain way, but also just an unsettling feeling in comparison to what's come before, where we've settled a little bit at least on each of these different sound worlds. Here we're moving quicker than we can do that. We've brought in some vibraphone, I think, adding some tinkly stuff, but like not like the chimes though. They have a kind of similar sound, but the chimes are all just meant to be brushed together, whereas the vibraphone gives out each of those notes very clearly, individually. Okay, and then we suddenly clear into just piano, I think with a little bit of a cymbal brush again. Building. Yeah. So we have this line going down in the piano there, while we also get, I think, up an octave from here. Something like that. So just walking down the scale in thirds. There's a third, there's a third, there's a third, there's a third. Like that, while the lower hand also works down. So we have this kind of tinkly, tinkly, tinkly effect coming down. So we are actually back with E flat minor now, and that might be a coincidence or it might be deliberate, but we've also stayed on it, and we're doing a similar kind of thing to what happened when we got out of the intro into more of a metrical thing. Same kind of thing is going on here, but we've got more vocal melody and not so much flute melody. No problems giving the notes that are not in this chord as long appoggiatura as in the melody, okay? That's sixth in there. And then leading on to the ninth. And then that's the 11th, again falling to the ninth. So the melody is really pulling those passionate intervals, the sort of slightly combative, clashy notes out of the melange of noise here. Okay, same thing. Again, we went to F minor afterwards. Again, starting on the ninth here, and we do go down to a note that's more comfortably in the chord there, but we start on the ninth. As we're moving from here, that if we'd sung it a little bit earlier, it would have sounded pretty crazy, clashing, false relating with that G flat there. As we move, it just becomes that beautiful minor ninth sounding interval there. Lovely. This is a slightly different change of chord than we had before. It's not going down to that D flat kind of sounding thing. It's going more towards that classic of most classic of Dorian changes. So from, if we think of this as the 1, we go to the 4, major 4. So it's like F to B flat there, F minor to B flat, and we get that sort of raised D being quite powerfully. I think of it as like optimistic. But we've still got the F being really the bass note. The bass keeps going back to that F rather than giving us a strong B flat. And we've also just got to something that is closer to that D flat sounding chord as well. Which is lovely. If we were on that, let's say that B flat, nice sixth, and then it resolves into this chord, but there's just a little moment of that that sharp 11 dissonance there. Okay, yeah, so this is how we had it before. There's a chance we had it this way before with the B flat as well. I'm just going to have a listen earlier. So here's our E flat minor, and we're really just heavily on that E flat minor with added 7th, added 9th. It's just very straightforwardly those notes, and then we shift. Yeah, okay, so we do kind of the same thing here. So maybe we get, 2 times, and then we get the alternative sequence. So that basically goes from this F minor to the B flat, to back to the F minor, to the B flat, and then we go to the D flat 7 and the F minor 6. And there's a subtle difference between those two minor chords as well, because when we get to the F minor 6, we've got the 6 really emphasized as part of the chord, which we didn't have in the earlier F minor chord. So we are doing the same sequence here. We've repeated it exactly the same so far. And there's, that shift as well. And really nice how you can get that line. Is that in there? No. It's actually the sharp 11, the tritone dissonance with that G that we get to, but the way that it's sung makes it sound so natural. Wow, that's actually somewhat masterful. I really like that. And then shifting as we get to back to that D flat chord, because goodness knows keeping a C sharp on a D flat chord, no, wouldn't be. Well, it would be an enharmonic shift, which we've already said is a nice thing. But this time we go down to the C to make that chord just that little bit more sexy. Major 7th. That one actually is there, but it's the major 7th that we are adding to that chord anyway. So so she's really playing with the notes which aren't quite in the chord, but still jive with the chord. It's not like we're taking it in a aggressive bitonal kind of direction. Each of these tonalities that come with each chord change are being honored by all instruments. They are all keeping in that particular set of notes. We're not getting any false relations within the chords. There's that E. Okay, and we are assuming that this is all the same chords here, because we didn't end up looking at all of them. But what's interesting is that the texture is different, isn't it? We've got the vocal melody, and we've also got a string melody, a violin melody going over the top in that highest octave. Do we stop on the same chord? What would... well, we didn't have... We so far haven't had that walking up and down of that. Is that where we are? No, I don't think so. I think we're on a G. So it is actually slightly different, I think. Yeah, and you can hear those, if they're vibes, it could be like a music box or something like that as well, and not so clear on the distinguishing sounds between different pitch percussion like that, but maybe it's a Celeste. It's just playing us out that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 kind of feel, which is different to what we've had before. So maybe this is moving us into a different place. or maybe not. Well, it wasn't moving us there, it was finishing the previous section, and then we're going to another thing. It's a B flat chord, which I don't think we've had. Oh, we kind of did, didn't we? And it's alternating between a normal B flat chord and a B flat major 7 chord, if you like. Or we've got like just an 8/7 thing there in the key. Again, a different place. We've really gone to a different place each time here. Softer, sparser texture. Just a few strings coming in as well as the piano. That's really all that's going on. Some very high tinkly percussion there. Let's hear that again. Oh, that's itching my eardrums. Yeah, this is a nice change between this. Firstly is an added note, the added 9. That's not, but then is the added 9 on this next chord, this G, I think G minor 6. Maybe not G minor 6, maybe just G minor 7. Or maybe neither. Yeah, is it a C chord? Let's hear it again. What's weird in there? There's something weird. This is very fun how much this is foxing my ears. Doo-doo. Something like that. It's something like a mixture of C and G, maybe C, G, 7. I'm not sure if there's an F in there. Yeah, it feels like a C chord with an F. I can't tell exactly where the F is, but it's got a G in the bass, so that's like a second version kind of C chord. But if we do that, it doesn't quite sound right. It's just missing something. We've also got the A of the melody, which is extra to the chord. Yeah, and then it resolves anyway, so let's not worry too much about exactly what it is. Yeah, very much to a like G13 chord there. And our first conventional change, basically a perfect cadence from that G to a C minor. Still, we weren't expecting C minor because we just had a nice strong E in the previous chord, and then we get an E flat in the next chord. Yeah, this feels more like the stuff from QP, and also like a particular kind of I want to call it like jazz standard music, really, because it follows these standard 2/5/1 sort of jazz things that we expect. There's more going on than that, but there's a lot of that, and it has such a clearly designated melody. Everything's da, 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 da. You know, on the beat, or if syncopated, only syncopated by a quaver. There's really nothing that's doing any more complex rhythms than that. So it's a particular kind of thing, and I think it's very popular in Japan, of these clearly well-crafted melody and chord combinations that hark back to the times of like Gershwin and Cole Porter. I think there's some of that here too. The bass is more present here, isn't it? It's keeping longer notes, giving us the bass of the chord. Yeah, and we're moving all over the place. I think we've got something like that at the moment, which is one of my favourite chords with a sharp 11. I just love sharp 11s. It's not, yeah, it does have a sharp 11 in there. It's not that. These are complicated chords, and no doubt there is something online to help with them. If not, I apologise for not going into them deeper, but they sound good. They sound constantly evolving, moving huge amounts every change, sometimes doing the more conventional ones. Here in this last part of the song, this most sort of conventional part of the song, we are having some more conventional changes, but we also have some of the more irregular ones thrown in there as well. There's another. Okay, and this is nice. We've got that Snow is Dancing thing back. Now it's played entirely on the piano, and we don't have an extra note in the middle. A little bit faster, and it's the only thing that's really moving here. Okay. So it went through very similar changes to what we began with, but the chord underneath is clearer here. More full because we've got more instruments dealing with it. Now we're starting with that A flat major 7 chord, and then moving. Where are we moving? Done it up an octave now as well. So from that A flat major 7 to E flat minor. And then it actually shifts down. It's not quite that, is it? Is it that? It does sound like that, yeah. Yes, okay. So we have the A flat set, major 7, E flat minor, let's see, E flat minor 7. And then we get another minor chord, which is G flat minor, or if you prefer F sharp minor. And we've got it in a second inversion, so that bass, so it has a kind of unusual filled nature, but also a little bit darker than you would expect. Especially with that kind of melodic minor bit in there as well, quite unsettling stuff, especially as it's come from the E minor. That's another tertiary shift for you. And then a nice, subtle change. Keep that bass note and comes into more to the fore. Still the same, but with more of a held D flat in there, giving us a D flat major chord. Nonetheless, still with a C at the bottom. Scary. Oh, no, C sharp at the bottom. And it just ends. And the last thing you can hear is that C sharp fading out. Wow. What an extraordinary beginning track. Yeah, really so much to take apart. I could have, if I wanted, spent all day having a look at all the minute details in there. I didn't want that. That's boring. What I wanted to do is listen to it as much as I did. Probably, maybe a slight bit less than I did. Nonetheless, I hope there's something to be got out of what I said. Okay, 24 degrees, 3 inches, 27.0. Oh, sorry, 3 feet. I mean, this is obviously not what that is. I've never read these. What are they called? Coordinates, aren't they? They're coordinates. I'd be interested to see where this is. Why not? I'll have a look. Let's go back to this. Here is where it is. Okay. So it's on quite a small island. And what is that leading off there? I mean, surely this can't be a genuine thing. That must be something to do with the map, right? There can't be massive long lines going through the ocean. Not like cables under the ground or something. Oh, hello. Why do we have nothing around it? Really? That's so interesting. I didn't realise that the main part of the sea was generally just greyed out on Google Maps. That's very interesting. But yeah, there we are. We're on a small island, which I couldn't off the side of Iriomote Ishigaki National Park. Okay. How fun. And I can't read kanji, so there's no way I'm going to be able to tell you what's going on here, but there's an observatory, site of Shimotabari Castle, and there's an airport. Oh, I guess this is Hataruma, isn't it? Fun. Alright, I don't know anything about Hataruma, and I have massively lost interest, but let's have a listen to it. It's only a minute. Okay, we've got a low cello. Like a B, but it's a bit flat by my... Okay, so that first chord that was given there was sort of like a B major, but I think it quickly got that E in there, giving that sus4 sound. And we've got some just held stuff, a little bit of plucky percussion, and then the voice soaring over the top. Yeah, quite an interesting melody. Just looking at these notes, so even the melody is emotionally ambiguous on this B chord. It's not giving us it's not giving us do, it's giving us do, do, the second do, and the fourth, and the seventh even. That's cool. That's like, that feels, I know it's not authentically folk melody, that kind of thing, but it does feel very folky. Okay, there is a little bit of giveaway from the guitar there, giving us the D sharp, so there we are. Change of chord. Yeah, so something like really the melody is the only thing that is moving at all. We get tiny little bits of other things interspersed, but the main two things, those piano chords, which are nice and slow, that's like an E on G sharp basically, an A and B, but I don't want to say any of these chords are exactly that, because I think there's a lot going on. Quite a strange melody, jumping down 2/4 and then continuing down. So big range just for 5 notes. It's kind of similar to what Coloratura started with. Nice bit of guitar there. How would you play that? You could play it like that, I suppose. Probably played in a slightly different way. I guess you could do. Yeah, nice 4 notes anyway, not a standard chord again. Yeah, little clusters, but again, all consonant in the, you know, the mode that you would expect them to be. Nothing playing against mode. And the mode is B Mixolydian. So that bit brighter than Dorian, it's got the major third in there, but it's a little bit less settled than a major key. It has this sort of onwards, ever onwards kind of feel to it. Ending on a 6th chord there, I think. Not my kind of thing. Yeah, okay. A nice little thing. Structure-wise, not much to speak of. We sort of get this particular chord sequence a few times. Maybe twice, maybe 3 times, but the main part there is the melody, and the melody doesn't have too much repetition to it. None of the interstitial things seem to have much repetition to them. So we have a wonderful array of different sounds in a little over a minute, giving a real nice, peaceful feeling, but with some interest there as well in that Mixolydian mode. What does it mean? I don't know. Let's carry on. Mazamun. Okay. Building up nice wind or sea sound. And then 2 chords. Maybe some more, but very high on that tinkly. This could just be electric piano, to be honest, but maybe it's a acoustic instrument. I'm not sure. Where are we? Let's hear them again. That's our lowest note, which is very high. It's a G sharp, or yeah, let's call it a G sharp, and then we get basically a G sharp minor chord with a little bit of extra extra stuff in there. Let's hear it again. Yeah. So we get that added flat 6. So you could see it as an E flat, blah, 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 as an E chord with a major 7. But the bass note is G, such that it is. It's very high. Anyway, we've got four notes that don't quite play together. Those, especially the E and the D sharp, really play off against each other. Something like that. Which is a more complicated set of 4 notes. Yeah. So we've got, again, A in the bass, so we move from G sharp up to A. We get the major 3rd there for A major. We get the sharp 11. Okay, maybe we're not talking about A major then. We get the 13. So how would you call this? Well, it's really like a half diminished chord. It's like a D sharp half diminished chord, but we've got A in the bass, which is the tritone of what that would be. Well, it's a cool one anyway. Not easy to play on the guitar. Yeah, that's how you would voice it, I suppose, on the guitar. Yeah, it's sort of like the Tristan chord as well. But anyway, moving on. We're not going into that today. And then relaxing. Very similar, if not exactly the same as the first chord. Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? So that chord before, it was unsettled as a, if you thought of it as an E chord, it didn't quite work that way. But then after this chord, coming back there, feels much more like an E chord. Maybe it's just because of the rush. There's a little bit more of a rush through those notes, so the D sharp isn't quite as prominent. I don't know, but anyway, it's an interesting experiment in phrasing, I guess, and what effect that has on the harmony. There we've gone back to our diminished, half diminished. Okay, so now we're establishing some meter. Simple melody. It's basically like an A with a B and then an A with a C. So like first section leads to second section. Second section. First section again leads somewhere different second time to the third section. Yeah, a lot of really close sounding stuff here. We're getting so much extra noise from whatever that instrument is. Lots of sort of finger movement or just general atmosphere from it, which is not there on the vocals. So that's interesting. And we are just going between those two chords, which is an interesting thing. It wouldn't normally be interesting, I suppose, going between two chords. But as these are quite interesting chords, and as what we've done previously is had somewhat of a more evolving landscape on this album, it's quite nice that we're not doing that here. We're just doing something much more simple. Okay. So that time we went to more of an F sharp minor chord. And then we went back to that E chord again at the end. And again, from that F sharp minor, it doesn't quite feel as settled. But then the voice settles it, ending on that E, sort of saying, no, this is the end. This is our nice resolution. An E major, there's nothing complicated about it. Calm down, guys. Oh. Or maybe there is. Well, this chord is what is unusual there. That melody by itself fits very nicely, and we could have had that over this one. Or even the other one. It wouldn't have been odd. But with that extra chord, we get that seventh dissonance, which is stronger than any dissonance we've had really here. And yeah, the reason we get that is because it's a chromatic alteration. We would have had this one if it was unaltered. And there's again there's inert basically. It's not moving in the same way, whereas this one, we have that tension, that movement, and we get another after this, which is basically that, isn't it? Oh, actually, is it just... No. Ah, yeah. Yeah, so it's this, which is an A minor 6 chord. Yeah, so this is like an F sharp major chord. We had an F sharp minor chord just before. We've got F sharp major, that's a chromatically altered supertonic chord, and then we get the A minor or the A minor 6, which is a chromatically altered subdominant chord. Both this one and this one are coming at the root from totally different directions. This one is, yeah, positive. Yeah. And then this one, oh yeah. Oh, falling down, sad, nowhere near as empowered. Back to our first part. Okay, there's the A minor again. This time... Oh, no it isn't. Of course. It's like the A minor. We've got the same chromatic alteration, which is instead of having the C sharp there, we've got a why do I keep doing that? C natural. But it was an F sharp chord. The C natural's in there, and it's another half diminished chord. And then that leads us quite nicely as like our 2 chord in jazz to our 5 chord in jazz, which is a B, which is something that sounds quite comfortable. We've not had it before, but it's the 5 chord in E, so it's really comfortable from where we've been previously. We had a little bit of extra noise there, didn't we? Woo, woo. What's that? What's that? Some silly noise. Well, it's coming in. It's like a theremin, but we're getting one very strong E, and then we're getting one up the octave from that tinkly instrument that we started with, while some theremin does some weird stuff in the middle. Okay. Those high E's have now come down. We've still basically got the same thing going on. I think because whatever that instrument is so quiet in reality, that's why we've got such a large amount of gain on it, and that's why we can hear so much of the room that it's being played in, so much hiss. But I love it. It sounds so comforting. Okay. So establishing a new thing now. So it's an E major chord with an added ninth. There we are. And we've got a different melody here. Something like that. So over here, basically here, which is like like an A6 chord kind of. Yeah, I guess that's how it feels. Okay, moving faster. And more regularly, but it feels like it's in fives. Am I wrong? Yeah, it is in fives, but I can't tell if the fives are being interrupted. I think we're not always getting to the end of the fives, but it is going, which is nice. And there's another chromatic chord. Well, it's our F sharp again. And both the instrument and Ichiko, who presumably are playing the instrument, they both go to that A sharp at the same time. Just for a little point, but it hits right on the beginning of the chord, so it's going from a comfortable E at 9 kind of thing, somewhere different, somewhere wondrous. So the voice is on an F sharp here, but everything else is giving us like an E5, maybe with that major 7 in there as well. But there's no third for some reason here. A little bit of whoop. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice. It's very, very soft, very, very sweet. It's got sort of a hint of more recent Björk to it, hasn't it? With that just simplicity of texture, with the unusual rhythm going on in the background. There's our F sharp minor again. We had that before, didn't we? But we had it on the F sharp major. So interesting that it's now on the more inert one. An A. Same thing again. This is classic Japanese jazz, I think. So on a G sharp major chord with an added 13th, maybe that's just there. No, I think that is in the chord. So it gives it a sort of whole tone kind of feel. Not all the whole tone is there, and the melody uses the 5th, so it isn't doing that, but that's kind of how it feels. So another chromatic difference chord. We would really strongly suspect this to go to a C sharp minor after this. And maybe we'll get that, or maybe it will really surprise us. We went for the second option, which is a step up to A. Now here it's more clearly A, even though we're playing almost all the same notes that we were playing for that first half diminished chord. The only one we've got extra is that E there, and that sort of gives us much more of an A feeling, which is very powerful, even though it's just a tiny thing. Very comforting in comparison. Okay, still keeping those going. That's the first time we've got a proper false relation. Almost throwaway, but very, very powerful. Yeah, because the melody stays in the same place that it was before, the same mode. Do, 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 do. Nothing complex or crazy about that, but because we've got that do, 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 got those two things cutting against each other. Powerful stuff. We've had two moments in this piece of music of really sort of grinding beauty. Okay, and then that is a lovely resolution to what feels like a 5 when it should be, because it's the B, and that was the 5 before, that dominant chord. Everything. We've got a little bit of extra from the movement of that top line. Adding that 4 in there as well as the 3. So it's an add 11 chord. And there's our E. So we went from A, E to A, with a bit of a 6. And there, we're basically back to our beginning chord of that slightly ambiguous E on the G sharp, but we've also got an added 9 in this one. Still, yeah, really, really powerful recontextualization of that in a more conventional sequence. There's our F sharp again, with the A sharp in the bass, still with that 7, sorry. But now it's being played by the instrument rather than being sung. Da, da, da. Instead, the voice is stopping on the added 9 of that chord. Back again to our B add 11. Oh, with a 7 in there. And we just let all those resonances slowly fade away rather than resolving to E. Which is interesting because we've not been afraid of that resolution, but leaving it there. Does feel unfinished, doesn't it? Well, I think that's a bit of an archaic kind of thought. It's not unfinished at all, is it? It finishes more with a question than with an answer, and I think that's beautiful. I think that is done a lot, so I'm not saying it should be done more, but I really appreciate it when it's done. It's an imperfect cadence, is what it's known as, and there's nothing wrong with it at all. It's really, really strong. Anyway, probably the last one, Tower. So still E, but this time minor. Nice. And we're going for just an added 9 this time, not a whole minor 9 chord, which includes the 7th. We've got just the minor chord, E, G, and B, plus that F sharp, which feels like a throwaway one at the beginning. But then we're waiting on it a bit longer. It feels like we're in 3 as well. Oh, actually there is a 7th that just gets added there. My mistake. It's interesting, the difference of feel, because it comes later. This minor feels a lot more sort of staid, a lot more old-fashioned. But then we get that minor 9 at the end, reminding us that we've had Debussy, we've had jazz, and so 9 chords are pretty standard now. You wouldn't hear that from Mozart, let me tell you that. Because he just wasn't capable of it. Yeah, so it's quite a fun line there. And then just waiting for the second part of the bar, or if you want to think of it as 2 bars, we have 1 bar of movement and 1 bar of stillness. Okay, we're going somewhere else. Lots of different places, changing every... Okay, we were changing every 3 beats there for a moment there, and we've just stopped on kind of A, 7 sus 4 chord. Is this going to lead us back to E minor? We'll see. The voice is coming in. No. Instead we go to G major 7. The melody is on that major 7. And then instead of walking it down to a note in the chord, we walk it down 1, and then we switch directions up to the 9. We love, as Ichiko Aoba, we love doing 9s and 7s and other added notes to the chords. We're not interested very, very much in sitting on the note of the chord. Maybe we do that at a resolution point at the end of a whole verse. Same kind of thing here. We've got that, again, ambiguity that we had in the previous one, because we've got F sharp in the bass. If we had that D, it would be a D chord, but we sort of take that away and give a bit more emphasis to the C sharp, which gives us that it's an F sharp minor chord. But again, is what the melody sits on, so giving us that minor 7, the 7. Okay, and then oh yeah, that's not a 7, is it? No, it's not. That's actually fine. That's the 3rd of the chord, my mistake. And then it gives us the 11th. So what I said still stands, but we had a little more complexity in there. We're not always going for notes that are outside the chord, but often that's where we're getting the power of the melody. Back to G major 7, but this time the melody is higher. So that first note is the 3rd of the chord. And it goes up to the sharp 11th of the chord. Nice stuff. And it's the same shape, isn't it? middle, low, high, but it's just on different notes. This was a different shape phrase though there. That first note, that highest, those are in the chord, are actually a different chord that she's singing down there. Each of those is the sharp 11, the 9 and the 7 of that chord. So we're really comfortable with those upper extensions, making new chords in the higher range fit with the lower range chord in a way that it doesn't really feel dissonant. It feels quite complex and emotional, but it doesn't feel aggressively dissonant, does it? That's interesting because we've been sat on that G and then da-da. You would expect the G. Da-da. It's remarkable how many people avoid that, like a minor chord with a flat 9 on top. It must just be seen by a lot of people as quite an ugly thing. I think I can understand why. It's hard not to resist. It's hard to resist the beauty of that minor 9 chord instead, and that's what we get here. We get that G sharp instead of the G. So again, we've got a kind of system where these different chords are giving us different harmonic centers and different sound worlds, or like harmonic sound worlds, each individual chord to itself, if that makes sense. This is an interesting E chord, which we should have been, well, not expecting, because we had E minor to begin with, didn't we? So we've gone further away from that now. And again, the melody ends on the 11th of the chord, which is something unexpected. Okay. This is quite a more unusual chord. It's like a B7, but it's got a D sharp in the bass. And nice, we go from the E to the D sharp, D, E, D sharp, and then we're going to D, E, D sharp, D. Yeah, it's an interesting D chord with the 6 and the 7 added, but it is still D major. Back to an A kind of chord. Okay, and then we're sort of back to where we were to begin with. The melody's evolving. We're definitely getting a different melody coming next, with some more movement to it. That's what it feels like. And a more complex texture. And absolutely more complex chords. Maybe we got these earlier. Again, changing every 3 beats. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's interesting. In fact, we're just going to listen to that again, and we're going to chart what happens with the melody rather than what happens with the chords. Okay, so we started here, and we got a slightly unexpected note there, and then this. That's our first note that we weren't expecting there. So it's slightly changing the melody note by note. Nothing suddenly going to a totally different scale we're keeping a lot of notes in common between different phrases here. Same thing there. So even though the harmony is evolving vastly from chord to chord and really giving us different sound worlds each time, what isn't doing that is the melody. The melody is evolving slower and keeping a lot of notes in common in order that it feels more connected to the whole. It's really hard to make melodies sound good if they are too far from each other, as in if each segment of the melody feels like it's occurring in a different world. No doubt there are pieces of music which can make that really work, but it's a trap to fall into if you're just trying to make complex music and you're not thinking about how the melody actually fits. It's something very easy to do and not very easy to combat. So I think Ichiko Aoba is doing really well here of making a melody that doesn't sound too complicated, fits with the chords very well, and yeah, slowly evolves into these slightly different modes. Okay, kind of back to the beginning, but we've got the bass in, and we've got a little tinkly stuff at the top as well. Nice acoustic bass. Maybe it's a double bass. Yeah, I guess so. This is the same as the first verse, but we've got those plucked strings and we've got the bass too. Change. Yeah. Again, that G sharp. Back to the E. There's that D sharp and the D, and then to the A. Okay, I don't think we had that the first time. Just a little bit of extra information about that A, which was nice by itself. Get that sharp 11. We didn't know that was there. Lovely stuff. Yeah, this is our mind-bending jazz harmony section. It's not too complicated, to be fair. Yeah, hang on. We can go over this. Something like that. Let's hear it one more time. Okay, so it starts E minor, A7, B minor, C sharp minor, D major, F sharp minor, F major, A major, which is a crazy set of chords, but a lot of those work very nicely together. E to A, that's just 2 to 5. Then we get a backdoor unexpected thing to B minor, but that's still the second most expected thing. B minor to C sharp minor, that is entirely unexpected, and that is a real shift. And then that to D is a shift, well, not quite as crazy, but quite crazy. D to F sharp minor sounds really nice together. F sharp minor to F is a big shift, chromatic shift, and then we get a tertiary shift from F to A to finish off. Cool sequence. back to our beginning again. Oh, this is actually following the same sequence though. That shouldn't really be a surprise, I think. There's a little bit more that comes after that as well. After the A, I think it sounds like it goes back to the F and then to a kind of D on A. It's actually on G, isn't it? It's a G. It's, yeah, G major 7 to the F sharp minor. Okay, so this is like our verse section before, but we've just got. Oh, I guess that melody's sort of reversed, isn't it? It's not quite the same. It's more. It's sort of halfway between the melody from the piano at the beginning and the melody from later on with the. It's that one reversed, and it's the other one, just the end part. But there's a lot of continuity between melodic sections, which is lovely to see, lovely to hear. An interesting chord to end on there. It's like a F sharp minor add 11. What to say about that? It doesn't quite feel settled. Again, similar to the previous one, but the previous one didn't feel settled because it wanted to go to a new chord. This one just wants to clear up the chord that it's on. The F sharp minor by itself feels somewhat settled, but it doesn't have that. It has that extra add 11, which makes it unsettled. And then it just stops. Wow, well, this has been the highlight of my year so far musically. And I've only listened to the first 4 tracks and Sono. I'm going to have a listen to the rest and I'm going to probably enjoy it. It's not like, there's no mind-bending things I've never ever heard of here, but there are some really unusual elements. The textures are, they're unusual, aren't they? They're different to what you would expect of your general music. As well as the textures being different, the harmony is wild and very, very emotive, and even more emotive than that is the melody lines, which admittedly are they are both soft and well planned and very unanimated in a certain way, but they are so powerful even in their just subtle low level beauty. Anyway, waxing lyrical about that ought to stop now. I will endeavour to make the rest of your life good as well as the rest of your day, and if it isn't, I apologise, but I hope you have a good, let's say, week, even though I failed you in that respect. Bye bye.